Now, Carlos Sainz has the attention of the world of Formula One after his stunning victory in Melbourne, Australia. But only a few months ago, Ferrari decided he was undeserving of a new contract, and even now, the Spaniard still doesn't have a confirmed seat for 2025. So where does Carlos Sainz go from here? And how did he ascend to the pinnacle of motor racing? As the son and namesake of Carlos Sainz Senamor, a successful rally racer in the 1990s, Carlos Sainz's path to becoming a professional racer was laid even before he was born. But rather than compete in the World Rally Championship, a sport where his father won 2 titles and finished runner-up 4 times, Sainz Jr. opted to compete in open-wheeled single-seater motorsport. His decision was inspired by the successes of his compatriot and 2-time F1 champion Fernando Alonso. It was a big dream for the young champ from Madrid, but today, not only is he racing in F1, he's competing against his childhood idol. Such is the fairy tale rise of Carlos Sainz's journey to the apex of motor racing. But of course, his story would never be complete without the humble beginnings as a kart racer. Back in 2008, Sainz won the Asia Pacific KF3 title and finished second in the Spanish Karting Championship. 1 year later, the Spaniard clinched the Junior Monaco Kart Cup and was runner-up in the European KF3 Championship. These little wins would lay the foundation for the next phase of Sainz's career as a junior Formula driver. As he continued his steady rise through the motor racing ranks, Sainz joined the Red Bull Junior program as a 16-year-old in 2010. Over the next 2 years, young Carlos competed in Formula BMW, Formula Renault, and the European F3 Open. He never really dominated these competitions, but he had some outstanding performances in between. And more importantly, he was consistent and posted respectable results throughout the season. His dual campaign in the 2012 British and Euro Series Formula 3 Championships wasn't any different, as he finished 6th and 9th respectively. At this point, the lack of results was becoming a real worry, and Sainz knew that he needed to step up. The Spaniard was hoping to do this at the 2013 GP3 series, but unfortunately, it didn't just happen for him. With his back against the wall, Carlos entered the 2014 Formula Renault 3.5 series, and he lit up the competition with thrilling performances to clinch the first trophy of his junior racing career in Formula Motorsport. Seeing the dominant fashion in which Sainz won the title, the Red Bull hierarchy decided Sainz would join Toro Rosso for the 2015 F1 World Championship. At Toro Rosso, Sainz partnered with Max Verstappen, and despite their inexperience and the issues they had with the car, they both showed their star qualities. However, the Spaniard finished the season with 18 points compared to Max Verstappen, who racked up 49 points. Obviously, Verstappen was seen as the better driver, and rightfully so. The Dutch racer was promoted to Red Bull during the 2016 season, meaning Carlos Sainz had to race alongside Dani Kvyat. Now, in his second season in Formula One, Sainz was much more confident on the track, and despite a few retirements and collisions, he finished 12th on the drivers' standings with 46 points, 28 more than he managed in his debut season. In the 2017 season, which would ultimately be his last for Toro Rosso, Sainz scored 54 points, which represented 92% of the team's overall points tally. Impressed by his excellent driving style, the Renault F1 team came calling at the end of the 2017 season, and Sainz answered that call with hopes that it would propel him to join one of the front-row teams in the future. Sainz's first season at Renault was marred by some weird occurrences, including at the Mexican Grand Prix where he retired due to steering problems, and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix where the team released him from the pit with a loose wheel. Despite these issues, Sainz garnered 54 points across the season to finish 9th in the drivers' standings. The next season, the Spaniard finished within the points range in 13 of the 19 races he completed. Ironically, he finished with 1 less point than he had tallied in the previous season. It was still a decent finish anyway, however the guys at Renault didn't see it this way, so they axed the Spaniard from the team to make space for Daniel Ricciardo. Thankfully, McLaren had a vacant seat after Fernando Alonso left the team, and they offered it to Carlos Sainz, who gladly accepted it ahead of the 2019 season. This was the perfect chance for Sainz to show Renault that the decision to replace him with Daniel Ricciardo was a big mistake. Although Sainz had an abysmal start to life at McLaren, suffering 3 DNFs in the first 3 races, the tenacious racer would go to finish the season in 6th place with a staggering 96 points. His points tally was 47 more than his teammate Lando Norris, who finished in 11th position. In a sport that's defined by fierce competition, Sainz was showing his qualities as a consistent point scorer, and of course, the front row teams were beginning to notice him. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, driver movement across the grid was a bit restricted, meaning Carlos Sainz would spend another season at McLaren. And the Spanish driver didn't mind. In fact, by the end of that season, he scored 105 points, smashing his points tally from the previous season. This time, the big teams on the grid couldn't overlook his performances anymore. With champion Sebastian Vettel leaving the team, Ferrari had some big decisions to make, and after assessing the available drivers on the grid, the team decided Carlos Sainz was the perfect driver to fill that void. Announcing the move, Ferrari team boss at the time, Mattia Binotto, described Sainz as a talented driver. "I'm pleased to announce that Carlos would join Scuderia Ferrari as from the 2021 championship," Binotto said. With 5 seasons already behind him, Carlos has proved to be very talented and has shown that he has the technical ability and the right attributes to make him an ideal fit with our family. Well, the boy from Madrid was finally fulfilling his dream. Not only was he going to be driving for one of the most iconic teams on the grid, he was also going to replace a 4-time champion and one of the greatest racers ever. Speaking ahead of the move, Sainz said, "I'm very happy that I'll be driving for Scuderia Ferrari in 2021 and I'm excited about my future with the team." In his first season for Ferrari, Sainz showed great adaptability and racecraft as he clinched 4 podiums to finish 5th in the drivers' standings ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc, who could only manage a 7th place finish. 2022 saw the introduction of new technical regulations, which allowed Ferrari to reposition itself as an F1 superpower. The Prancing Horse team stunned the entire grid with a 1-2 finish in the season's opener in Bahrain, but as the season wore on, the team lost its momentum, and so did Carlos Sainz, who finished the campaign in 5th place with 246 points. Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, secured a 2nd place finish with 308 points. The 2023 season was even worse, as Carlos Sainz had his lowest finish as a Ferrari driver. To be fair to the Spaniard, 7th position wasn't exactly a bad result, especially considering how Red Bull dominated the rest of the field. In fact, Sainz's win at the Singapore Grand Prix made him the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race in the 2023 season. Yet Ferrari didn't seem to rate him. Within the team, there was a subtle but obvious belief that Charles Leclerc is the better driver. This became apparent with the elongated contractual talks between Ferrari and Sainz. With his future hanging in the balance, the Spanish racer declared in December 2023 that he was happy at Ferrari and would love to continue his career with the Italian team. "Obviously, I want to renew, and I like to renew for more than 1 year, not just 2. Sainz said in a team event. "You know my intentions, and honestly, I feel perfectly valued by Fred Vasseur and by the whole Ferrari family in general." Well, in the midst of all these uncertainties, Charles Leclerc extended his deal with Ferrari in January, and Carlos Sainz would have been hoping to do the same before the start of the new season. But his hopes were dashed on February 2nd, 2024, when Ferrari announced that 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton would join the team in 2025. The announcement came as a surprise to everyone on the grid, including Carlos Sainz, who was blindsided. While speaking to Sky Sport News, Sainz struggled to hide his disappointment, saying, "There was always good talks and positive talks, and then obviously it's true that at one point I got to know about this, and it surprised me, I guess, as much as it surprised you in the UK." Despite his disappointment, Sainz reiterated his determination to end his time at Ferrari on a high. "As I said, it surprised me, but it also gave me a bit of time to think about it, to realise what was happening and try to move forward. And thinking that we're still 1 year ahead of us in Ferrari, I want to close off my chapter here in the best possible way." Now, as the F1 entourage touched down in Bahrain for the start of the 2024 season, Sainz immediately got to work. The Spaniard racer finished 4th in qualifying, 2 places behind Charles Leclerc. But come race day, he stormed to a 3rd place finish, while Leclerc finished in 4th. Beyond the result, Sainz drove with a chip on his shoulder in that race. His moves were daring, and you could tell he was a man on a mission. Going into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the fans and analysts were keen to see if Carlos Sainz would sustain that momentum. But unfortunately, he was diagnosed with appendicitis and had to undergo surgery. Ferrari replaced him with 18-year-old Oliver Bearman, who clinched a P7 finish on his F1 debut. With his surgery done and dusted, Sainz was back behind the wheel in Australia, raring to go. He was flawless in qualifying, clinching a 2nd place finish behind Max Verstappen. On Sunday, Sainz showed up to fight, overtaking Verstappen after just one lap as the crowd cheered on. As expected, Verstappen fought back in an attempt to reclaim his position, but the Dutch racer was forced to retire after a brake fire. With Verstappen out of the race, the coast was clear for Carlos Sainz to win the race, and that's exactly what he did, crossing the finish line 2.3 seconds ahead of Leclerc with a Ferrari 1-2. As a result of this thumping victory, Sainz is still the only non-Red Bull driver to have won an F1 race in 2023 and so far in 2024. That's a stark contrast to Charles Leclerc, who hasn't won a race since July of 2022. With all these facts laid before us, one cannot help but wonder why Ferrari chose Leclerc over Sainz. Throughout his career, Sainz has proven to be a top-tier driver. The Spaniard is intelligent, instinctive, and fairly tenacious. We saw all of these qualities at the Australian Grand Prix, where he seized control of the race after Verstappen retired. In fact, it's believed that Sainz showed enough pace in that race he could have still fought for the win even if Verstappen had been on track. That's a discussion for another video, but the point is Carlos Sainz is a driver with mega talent and probably deserves more props than he's currently getting. However, in terms of who is the better driver, arguably Charles Leclerc has a slight edge over Sainz. The Monegasque racer is extremely quick in qualifying, and he's shown that he can win races when the conditions are right and the car is solid. It's true that Leclerc hasn't quite hit top form this season, but when it gets to crunch time, he's the closest challenger to Max Verstappen and the second best driver on the grid. Now, some might say that if Leclerc is that good, then he should have won the Australian Grand Prix. But Formula 1 is so complex and technical that sometimes the race winner might not necessarily be the best driver. At the Australian Grand Prix, Leclerc had just about the same pace as Sainz, even setting the fastest lap. On another day, the Monegasque driver could have easily won the race. However, Sainz had the better strategy on the day, and that gave him the win. In terms of which one of them will outshine the other in the long term, that's a mystery only time will answer. And the answers we seek may not arrive until sometime in 2025, when Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc will have completed their first season together. However, based on what we've seen so far, the decision not to renew Sainz's contract doesn't look as good on Ferrari as it did before. For now though, Sainz will hope to continue his amazing start to the season as he examines his options for 2025. He's showing himself as a man on a mission with a point to prove. When you look across the grid, there are quite a few options in terms of teams that Carlos Sainz can join next season. Mercedes, for instance, is one name that has popped up several times. With Lewis Hamilton heading to Ferrari, the Silver Arrows are looking for a top-level driver, and Carlos Sainz might just be that guy. Red Bull is also quietly in the driver market hunt, especially as controversy surrounds Christian Horner's role in the team, and rumours continue to swirl about star driver Max Verstappen seeking an exit. That, along with the uncertainty of Sergio Perez's future in the team, may leave the door open for Sainz to make a triumphant return to the Red Bull family he was once a part of. After the Australian Grand Prix, Horner was asked if he would take Sainz back into the Red Bull fold. The British executive says it's a possibility, but also reiterated that the team will take its time. I think we want to field the best pairing that we can at Red Bull Racing, and sometimes you've got to look outside the pool as well, said Horner. You've had a very fast unemployed driver win today, so the market is reasonably fluid with certain drivers. Look, based on a performance like that, you couldn't rule any possibility out. So I think we just want to take the time. With all of these options available, it'll be interesting to see what Carlos Sainz decides. In your opinion, which team do you think Sainz will race for next season? Should Ferrari have kept Sainz instead of Leclerc? Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our history of Ferrari's F1 team, and thanks for watching.